Rapper found dead in Bengaluru apartment. Suicide suspected. See a headline like that, and you just know there's got to be more to the story, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So today, we're doing a deep dive into this news article. It's from the Times of India, and let me tell you, it's pretty wild.
Lots of twists and turns.
Absolutely.
A young artist, maybe some family drama, the whole chasing your dreams thing. It's all in there.
Okay, so the article's about this 32-year-old rapper.
Okay.
He was originally from Cuttack, Odisha, but they found him dead in his apartment in Bengaluru. And get this, he was working as an automation testing engineer too, like a total double life kind of thing.
Interesting.
So the police, at first, they're thinking suicide, open and shut case, poison. They found an empty bottle bought online the day before. Seems pretty straightforward.
Makes sense.
But hold on, the family's not convinced.
Oh.
They're saying, no way, this was no suicide. They're claiming he was being mentally harassed by his wife and her family.
Wow. That changes things.
Big time. They even filed an FIR, a first information report.
Yay.
Against the wife and 4 other people.
Serious accusations.
And the charges are heavy duty. Abetment of suicide, concealing a crime, and they even threw in joint criminal liability. Basically, they're saying the wife and her family, they had something to do with his death.
Yeah, you don't file an FIR lightly. That's a big deal.
No kidding. And there's this other detail that just adds to the whole mystery. The article mentions that he'd been going back and forth between Bengaluru and Cuttack.
Makes you wonder if he's trying to get away from something,
Yeah.
Like maybe things were getting too intense.
Right. It's like, was he running from something or trying to fix something?
Exactly. Adds a whole other layer to it. We got to think about the pressure he might have been under, both personally and with his music career. Who knows what was going on in his life?
And then there's this one part, it's kind of creepy. A family friend found him. And the description, it's chilling. Fists tightly held, face turned black. Like you can just picture it.
Yeah, that's a powerful image.
It really makes you wonder what happened in those last moments,
For sure. It definitely raises some questions about what really went down. And you said that detail was in the police report?
Yeah, it was.
That's interesting. It's almost like even they're thinking, hold on, maybe there's more to this than meets the eye.
Right. They're not just brushing it off as a simple suicide.
Seems like they're at least open to the possibility that something else might have happened.
Okay, so the article doesn't really get into the specifics of the harassment. Like, what exactly does mental harassment mean, legally speaking?
Good question. In India, when you're talking about mental harassment, especially in a marriage, it often falls under cruelty. Think like verbal abuse, threats, intimidation, even controlling someone's finances.
Ah, I see.
It's about creating an environment where someone feels trapped, constantly on edge, like they're being pushed to a breaking point.
And what about concealing a crime? What would that look like in this situation?
Well, that's where things get a little murky. It could mean tampering with evidence, trying to make it look like a suicide when it wasn't, or maybe delaying the whole reporting process, giving them time to cover their tracks. But honestly, we need more info to really understand that part of the accusation.
All right, so we've got this young guy living a double life, found dead under some pretty suspicious circumstances. And his family, they're convinced there's a whole lot more to the story, pointing fingers at his wife and in-laws.
It's a real tangled web, isn't it? To get to the bottom of this, we got to dig deeper, look at the pressures artists like him face, especially when you factor in personal problems. It's tough, You're trying to make it as an artist, pouring your heart into your music, but then there's the whole gotta pay the bills thing, the regular job on top of it all.
Yeah, juggling those two worlds, that can't be easy.
Not at all. And then you throw in family expectations, maybe some relationship troubles. It's like a recipe for things to go wrong.
Definitely. And the music industry, it's not all glitz and glam, right?
Yeah. No way. We hear about the success stories, but the reality is a lot of artists are struggling financially with competition. The pressure to constantly create, promote themselves, it's a lot.
You can see how it'd lead to burnout.
Big time. And if you don't have people around you, a solid support system, it gets lonely real fast.
The article mentioned that the rapper's dad, he actually reached out to a family friend in Bengaluru when he couldn't get a hold of his son. Makes you think maybe he was trying to reach out, maybe he needed help, but didn't know where to turn.
It's easy to forget that even artists, these larger-than-life figures, they're just as vulnerable as anyone else.
It's a good reminder to check in on people,
Yeah.
especially those who might be struggling silently.
Yeah, sometimes just knowing someone cares can make all the difference.
So the article doesn't really go into the details of the harassment, but they do mention that the rapper was moving back and forth between Bengaluru and his hometown, Cuttack.
Right, that back and forth, that definitely suggests something was up, some kind of turmoil going on in his life.
Yeah, like maybe he was trying to distance himself from a bad situation.
Could be. Sadly, it seems like it wasn't enough in the end.
There was this one detail in the article that really stuck with me. The family friend who found him, he actually had to get the rapper's roommate to help him get into the apartment.
Oh, wow.
It makes you think about how isolated he must have felt, even though he had people around him.
Yeah, surrounded by people, but still feeling completely alone.
Exactly. We got to create spaces where people, especially in fields like music, where there's so much pressure to project a certain image, feel comfortable talking about their struggles.
It's so important to break down that stigma around mental health, encourage people to reach out, get help without feeling judged or like it'll ruin their careers.
We're talking life and death here. It's serious.
Absolutely. And speaking of serious, the article also mentioned the other case from December, remember? The automobile executive who took his own life.
Yeah, amidst a messy divorce and custody battle.
Right. We can't directly connect the two, but you gotta wonder if there are some similarities there, some common threads.
Yeah, high-pressure jobs, personal turmoil, reaching a breaking point.
Makes you think, success in one area of life doesn't equal overall well-being, you know? We all have our vulnerabilities, and sometimes it just gets too heavy to carry.
It's easy to get caught up in the headlines, the drama of it all. But we can't forget that these are real people, with families, friends, dreams that were cut short.
Yeah, we have to remember the human cost of these tragedies. That's a lot to unpack, that's for sure. When you look at this whole thing, what really stands out to you? What do we need to explore more?
I think the whole support system thing is huge, right? We've talked about how tough the music industry can be, how isolating it can be, but what can we actually do to help artists like him? Like, how do we make it easier for them to reach out when they're struggling?
That's the million-dollar question. You hear about all these musicians dealing with mental health issues, but there's still so much stigma, especially in that world.
Yeah, like it's not okay to not be okay, you know?
Yeah, exactly. They have to project this image of strength, always on top of their game, so admitting they're struggling, that's tough. They might think it makes them look weak or that it could hurt their career.
And it's not just musicians, right? It's like doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurs, athletes, anyone in those high-pressure fields. They're all expected to perform at their best all the time.
It's a constant pressure cooker, and that takes a toll on anyone's mental health. We need to change the culture in those fields, make it clear that it's okay to ask for help, that it's actually a sign of strength.
You mentioned that other case, the automobile executive. It makes you wonder if there's something bigger going on, something in our society as a whole.
I think so. We live in a world where it's all about achievement, productivity, go, go, go. And that can be toxic, especially if you're already feeling vulnerable.
It's like we're all on this treadmill,
Yeah.
just trying to keep up, never stopping to ask ourselves if we're actually happy, if we're okay.
Right, and then you add in those profession-specific pressures, the isolation, the image thing, and it's a dangerous mix.
So what can we do? How do we change things, create a more supportive environment for people in these demanding jobs?
Honestly, I think it starts with just talking about it openly and honestly. Normalizing these conversations about mental health, letting people know it's okay to seek help.
And it's not just about talking, it's about listening. Really listening and being there for each other, no judgment.
Absolutely. We need to build a culture where it's safe to be vulnerable, where seeking help is encouraged, not something to be ashamed of.
Well, this deep dive has definitely been eye-opening, for me at least. It really drives home how important mental health awareness is, not just in the music world, but everywhere. We all have a responsibility to support each other, create a world where it's okay to struggle, to ask for help.
Couldn't agree more. And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this. What can you do today to be a better advocate for mental health? It doesn't have to be some grand gesture. Check in on a friend, share some helpful resources, just listen with an open heart. Every little bit counts.
That's some great advice. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. It's been a heavy one, but hopefully it's also been a reminder that we're all in this together. Take care of yourselves and each other.